Greetings and welcome to Mount Olympus. I am Hercules Invictus, and today I'm here with Michele, Brittany, and the scholars from the Edge of Time, and we're going to be listening to a review or two.
Yes, a couple of reviews. Yep. Well, greetings, Hercules, and greetings to everyone that are watching or listening. Obviously, this is our fifth Tuesday. Got to see us last week, and now you get to see, well, me right now, and then Nicholas will be joining in a little while. So the background looks a little different because this is my room. Usually we meet over in his room. But how are you this evening, Hercules?
I'm doing great. I'm researching for something I'm writing that'll be a little bit more involved in things I normally write. And
Hmm.
I discovered that the Green Lanterns from DC, which I've never had any interest in, are based on this mythology. So I've
Oh,
been watching cartoons from the Green Lantern Corps. I saw the movie. I've been watching tons of YouTube videos. I'm almost to the point where I've gotten what I needed to get out of it to tie it to what I'm doing. I tried it with the Infinity Stones before then, which I was a bit more familiar with from Marvel.
And I think wasn't it the mummy Ra? Let's see, Ramama? No, the living mummy. Wasn't he? Didn't he also have some sort of engagement with the Eternals elements as well?
Yeah, so it's a common theme, it seems, in our popular culture. And now that I'm looking for it, it's popping up in all the most unusual places. And
Hmm.
there's so many different variations of the colors and what they correspond to that I've come to the conclusion that you should make up your own colors, whatever works for you.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I know that they had talked about I know like gosh, what was it? Like issue 8 was a big thing for the Living Mummy because I think that's when they introduced some of those eternal stones. And I know that that particular issue was worth a fair amount of money for a while because of the anticipation that they might include those eternal stones elements in some of the Marvel movies. And I don't think they did ultimately, but it would have been neat if they had.
Yes, it would have been.
Yeah.
And who knows? Maybe in the future they will. They keep talking about making a monster universe with Marvel. I think all we've seen so far is Werewolf by Night and some horror elements in some of their movies, but they haven't made Midnight Sun yet. They haven't brought Blade back yet. They haven't done
Yeah.
Dracula, which they were promising to do for a while. So I'm looking forward to it being there. Maybe they'll introduce them at that time.
Yeah, I hope they do kind of expand and explore with some of the other characters. I mean, there's so many, Marvel characters, DC characters, that it would be really neat to see more of the ones that we're not as familiar with, because I think that would kind of refresh a lot of franchises that way. And Cleo keeps coming in and out. I don't know what she's looking for. One of my kitties. So she doesn't usually pop up on the screen very often, but I think because we're in my room, they tend to come in here a lot. So I think I've actually got like two or three off screen, including Cecily, who's right here.
You make
I've got
yourself.
my producer.
I've been including her in more and more of the credits.
Oh, that's sweet. Yeah, she is a really good girl. She is going to be. I think we were just figuring out the other day that she's going to be 8 years old this
Wow.
summer. And it's kind of like, wow, we remember when we first brought her home with Algernon, rest in peace, our number one son baby. But yeah, she's going to be 8. So, well, guess we're going to see Cleo coming in and out. So it makes sense though, because I am talking about mummies, and since she is uh, Cleo, which is short for Cleopatra, which kind of leads in to the first comic that I'm going to discuss. I'm going to try to dig into two today. Just kind of surface. I'll give a plot and then a little bit of my thoughts about them. So the first one is called Goddess versus the Mummy of Cleopatra. Little
Hmm.
background about this one. It is a local comic book that I picked up from one of my Glendale comic book stores. Drawn to Comics is the name of the store. And they have a number of different local comic book writers and artists, and they have like a little section. And so I actually came across this and thought, well, I'll pick it up and, see what it's about. Um, I'm going to talk about this one first, and then the second one I'll talk about is Moon Knight, City of the Dead. So there is kind of a general theme in both of them, and that is that they both make references to gods and goddesses of that are in ancient Egyptian mythology. And in the second comic, in the Moon Knight comic, they actually, Moon Knight travels down to the underworld. So he spends some time there. So, but anyway, we'll start here. This is Goddess versus the Mummy of Cleopatra. It was written by Max Hauser and illustrated by Sammy Bay. I think it's Beh. So I apologize if I mispronounced it. Hopefully, I did not. This one is set during World War II. It opens with a set of German soldiers in the process of looting the tomb of Cleopatra and is surprised when she comes to life. They find her mummy. She comes to life. And it kind of cuts there and goes into kind of the primary story that follows the goddess. She's down here, who is seeking approval from her father to protect Egypt from modern invaders. Again, this is kind of set in World War II, so we know that, the Germans were fighting in Egypt in the deserts. And of course, we had lots of other people running around the desert. So, anyway, she is looking for approval to protect Egypt. Her father gives her special bracelets so that she can basically fly around and get to different places. She sees the aftermath of some of the desert battle and comes upon the mummy of Cleopatra. They actually fight, and during their tussle, it is revealed how angry Cleopatra feels. Her tomb was looted, and her spirit has been living in the Duat, where she has been continually bullied and ridiculed as the quote, whore that betrayed Egypt. The goddess's father, who's Ra, sends Cleopatra back to the Duat and to the god Set. And for those that may or may not know mythology, uh, Set is the brother of Osiris. And so he's the darker, we're going to say the evil brother, versus Osiris, who's the good brother, and but is the god of the underworld. So anyway, the goddess stays in Egypt to protect her country, while the goddess Hathor goes to America. And what's kind of interesting is that we learn that the goddess is actually Sekhmet. And Sekhmet is a kind of lioness goddess. And through some of her different manifestations, she also embodies Hathor and Beset. So when Ra says, yes, you can stay, but Hathor is going to go to America, she goes through kind of a ritualized splitting of kind of her spirit, her soul. So Sekhmet stays in Egypt and Hathor goes to America. So this is kind of an alternate story. Um, so we learned that Hathor goes to America, she stays in Egypt. I thought that so now I'll talk about my review a little bit. I thought the story actually had an interesting premise in the goddess character. I thought the setup of unleashing Cleopatra seems reasonable, but obviously in the real world, for all of us that know something about Egyptian history and the archaeological activities in the country, that her tomb has yet to be found. I thought the goddess character was much more interesting and dynamic, actually. But I feel as though this comic was not a standalone title. I actually thought that, and we did see other issues of Goddess, but I didn't think that they were interconnected. And I think having read this, I now think that maybe this is like issue 2 or 3 or something like that. I feel like I kind of came in a little bit midstream. Um, so I feel there is a larger story to Sekhmet, the goddess. Um, anyway, uh, but that being said, that, if this is kind of a one shot, which is sort of the title kind of alludes to it being a one shot, I felt that there could have been a bit more context around Sekhmet, who she is, and her various associations to other goddesses and how they kind of evolved. Because we know, in the earlier dynasties of ancient Egypt, Sekhmet was an early manifestation. Then she kind of morphed and kind of separated into Hathor. Oh, there's Spunky. And you're going to see lots of kitties. And then later Basset. So I did feel that maybe they could have had a little bit more context around the gods and goddesses. Um, that for the casual reader, that would have probably been a little more helpful for them. So generally, I felt like some prior knowledge of ancient Egyptian mythology is really needed to more fully kind of understand and kind of appreciate the comic. I thought the art style and the lettering are competent. It's actually it's all in black and white. This is I'm going to say a budget title. I don't mean that in a derogatory sense. It's just that, you know, due to constraints with budget, it is in black and white. I thought the art is competently done. I think one of my big things, if I can recognize the characters from one panel to the next, thumbs up, right? Um, and I was able to do that. There was no problem. So I felt like the art was competent. I thought that the lettering was easy to read. I thought it was well placed within the panels, so that the lettering and fonts and things like that were not getting in the way of enjoying the comic. And they've got, good action. They balance it with conversations and things like that. So, I mean, I think, for, the comic, I thought that they did a nice job. I liked the layouts. I mean, it was definitely kind of dynamic in, what they were trying to do. So anyway, I just felt like, the art was good. The lettering was good. It wasn't getting into the way of, the action or characters and things like that. I just felt honestly that there could have been a little bit more context, especially if this is a standalone title. If it's not, well then, probably just a little bit more of like recap would have been helpful. But otherwise, I mean, I thought it was a fine title. It was nice. I always love finding other titles that incorporate ancient Egyptian mythology. So it was nice to find this out in the wild. And if you see it, it might be worth a pickup. But anyway, so that's my review of Goddess versus the Mummy of Cleopatra.
Did she actually confront the mummy of Cleopatra?
She did. So this particular spread, she has gotten her bracelets that allow her to fly around around Egypt. And so she comes across this battle, the aftermath of a battle, and it's basically Cleopatra annihilating the Germans. And then this is Cleopatra's mummy. So yeah, they actually showed that. So I mean, I kind of get the premise or kind of the prelude showing that Cleopatra's tomb was looted, it was broken into. They were trying to unwrap her to get, the various treasures that are typically wrapped with a mummy to protect them. So yeah, she was not a happy camper, let me tell you.
I
And
imagine.
apparently not treated very well in the underworld. This is the goddess, and this is her Sekhmet persona. She is the lioness. So you get to see her in that form as well as a more human form. Let me see. So this is her in human form, speaking with her father Ra. So I think they did a nice job as far as trying to integrate, mythology, Egyptian mythology. But again, I feel like maybe just a little bit more would be helpful to the casual reader. Um, my second, uh, my second review is Moon Knight, City of the Dead. This is a Marvel title. The original series ran in 2023. There was 5 issues, and then the trade paperback, sorry for the glare, the trade paperback came out in 2024. And so I did come across this from one of my other local comic book shops, Dreadnought Comics, which is north of where we are. Um, but I was excited to see this because I have been trying to kind of keep abreast of the Moon Knight comics as they're coming out, as well as try to capture some of the older titles as well. So this one was written by David Pepose. He was the writer, and Marcelo Ferrara was the artist. And I recognize the names. I think David Pepose wrote, I think, Lock and Key, maybe. I'm not sure. I should have looked that up before I got on today, but he does write quite a few different comic book titles, and I have seen Ferrara's name on other comics. So definitely Moon Knight. So let me tell you a little bit about the plot of this one. Um, one late evening, a young boy by the name of Khalil is stabbed by the Sons of the Jackal cultists. With his life hanging in the balance, Moon Knight travels to the underworld to save the boy's spirit and reunite Khalil's soul with his body. Along the way, Moon Knight runs into several Marvel supervillains that he has defeated in the past. And fortunately, he gets some much needed assistance from Layla El Faluli, who has become Scarlet Scarab in the Duat. After many battles throughout the 5 issues and much reflection by Mark Spector, as he addresses deep-seated guilt, essentially a whole lot of emotional baggage through the entire thing. So, an aside, there's a lot of internal dialogue that he's having psychologically as he kind of processes how he feels, because he's still living, even though he goes into the underworld. So, he's dealing with all these things, like his heart hasn't been weighed and things like that. But um, Layla's has. Hers balanced out on the weighing of the heart with the feather of truth, and because hers balanced with the feather of truth, um, Taharet, who, if you remember in the television series, she's the hippo goddess.
Yes.
Yeah. So she actually assigns Layla or designates her as Scarlet Scarab. And so she kind of oversees the parts of the underworld and helps people and kind of, keeps truth and order and things like that. Um, Moon Knight does save Khalil, and but he has to say goodbye to Layla again. So I don't know the whole story. I did do a little background reading because I've seen the television series where Layla came in. Um, but apparently she does die when Moon Knight and her fight the Hydra. And because of that, he wasn't able to save her. And so he has a lot of guilt around that. So when he's reunited with her in the other underworld, he's very excited, so happy to see her. But at the same time, he feels a lot of guilt because he hadn't been able to save her. So there's a lot of that going on in his journey through the underworld, where, like I said in the plot, he meets a lot of the various villains that he's fought in his past. So it's kind of funny when we opened up the episode where we're talking about different characters within the various franchises, and coming across other characters. So in this, you actually get some of those other characters. You get super villain, any, villains that he's run into in the past, as well as these cultists, the son of the jackal, or basically, they're running around, and they're basically part of the gang for Anubis. Okay. A little bit of my thoughts about this trade paperback, this story arc. I thought that Pepos wrote a really thoughtful and fragile story about Moon Knight as he seeks to reconcile unresolved guilt he has for past actions. And that's kind of a reoccurring theme, because, Moon Knight has basically three alter egos. Mark Spector is one of them, but he also has Stephen Grant that we saw a lot in the television series played by Oscar Isaacs, as well as a taxi cab driver by the name of Jake Lockley. Jake is the one that gets like kind of all the news off the streets type of thing. Stephen is more of a, works in the museum or, things like that. And then Mark Spector is the well-off person, and he's been kind of associated or kind of compared with Batman. Same kind of deal. So anyway, let's see. So Mark's introspection adds a psychological component to the story, and I felt really balances Moon Knight's journey through the underworld. The duet is presented well with the inclusion of recognizable ancient Egyptian mythological gods and goddesses, such as Anubis, Taheret, Amet, and Ahmed is the goddess that if your heart doesn't balance with the feather of truth, she will come and devour. She's the devourer. And I don't know if I'll be able to flip to her in here, but she's, one that you should be scared of, quite honestly. And even get Osiris in here. In addition, there are a number of Marvel villains that make an appearance as Moon Knight travels through the underworld. I particularly enjoyed seeing the gods and goddesses because I was not familiar with all of the villains. So, Moon Knight has been written for decades. I think he originally came out, and I'm doing a little cheat. I'm going to Wikipedia. He first appeared in August of 1975, believe it or not. He was
Wow.
in Werewolf by Night, issue number 32. And then I think his stories kind of picked up after that. And I'm kind of thinking, like, I think it was like late 70s or very early 80s when his story really, let's see, November 1980. November 1980 is when the first series came out that was dedicated to Moon Knight. And he is still going strong. So we're talking
That's
45 years, 46 years. So, pretty good. Um, but that said, there's a legacy, 46 years legacy material. I definitely do not know all the villains that he's fought over the time. I've been slowly reading through and getting familiar with this story, but I honestly didn't recognize all of them. Um, I also enjoyed seeing Layla because I really had liked her character in the television series, so it was really great to see her again and see them work together. Um, I felt like it was a reunion of the two, particularly after seeing them in the television series, and they do, I would say, I would say they even kind of have a chemistry in the comic book, I think. And I don't know if that's typical, but I guess it is. I guess you can have chemistry in a comic book, if they're well-written characters. Um, I thought so I really liked the story. I thought it was great. I loved reading um, Mark as he kind of, processes and reconciles past guilt, and kind of coming to terms with different actions over the years. He's got a lot to process, obviously. I thought the comic books art was exceptional. Obviously they have a lot of money. So, this art looks fantastic. It's full color. It's just absolutely gorgeous. Here's Moon Knight, here's Layla in the underworld, and the colors just kind of pop off the page. Just an absolutely gorgeous comic. I thought the action scenes are packed with a lot of energy, and the fragile aspects of Mark's journey are conveyed with respect and thoughtfulness, resulting in a kind of a dynamic visual experience. The color palette is vibrant, especially the bright violets and electric teal that glows off the page. The lettering and overall composition throughout doesn't draw undue attention. I mean, that's always kind of our test. Did it kind of blend all together or did something weird, funky kind of stand out? Like I read a comic some time ago where, like, for instance, the lettering wasn't centered in the speech bubble. And that really kind of drove me nuts. It really drew your eye and you're like, yeah, there's definitely something wrong there. Um, but I did think that the lettering and overall composition throughout didn't draw any undue attention, exactly how those elements should partner with the rest of the visuals. Ultimately, I felt that those with some Moon Knight reading experience or have even watched the series will have the most enjoyment with this 5 issue called City of the Dead. I just want to get to, I wish that I can find Ahmet. I'll just show a few pictures as I wrap up, but that's the underworld. Moon Knight, for those not too familiar, he is in white and black. So this is not kind of like, oh, they didn't color him in because, he is going to stand out because of his costume. Um, let's see. Let's see, there's a little bit over here, with more of the underworld. Here's just a little bit more, all that electric colors that really glow off the page. Another very action-oriented page. These are some of the cultists, I think. And then, yeah, and then some of the prior villains that Moon Knight has fought. obviously, this is a case where, he has to really kind of fight pretty hard. And, it is a struggle for him. He is a human. He does have the uh, Kansu, who is a night god. He is a mythological god from ancient Egyptian mythos. And then I just want to bring here is Amet. So you can kind of see her there and pretty terrifying. Um,
The Marvel one is very beautifully drawn and beautifully colored. That's very
yeah,
effective.
yeah, and that's her again. Anyway, that is my take of both of these that I discussed this evening. Um, Very enjoyable. I highly recommend. I did read, I think on Reddit, there was kind of a mixed bag with regards to this title. Some people didn't like the fact that they felt that Marvel was kind of really kind of forcing and shoehorn in trying to really put in Marvel supervillains in there. But honestly, I kind of feel like, well, he is in the underworld, and so he would encounter those villains that he would have fought in the past. So I can forgive that. I mean, I don't know all of them, so I don't know if there's ones that he faced that he hadn't fought before. So I can't say for certain about that. That's my caveat. But generally speaking, I thought the underworld was well represented and well visualized. And I thought the story was very good. So I personally would recommend this for anybody that enjoys Moon Knight and would like it to have a real psychological study of Mark Spector as Moon Knight and kind of how does a superhero deal with the baggage of being a superhero. I think this is definitely a title worth reading. So I highly recommend for those reasons.
Thank you very much. That was fun and informative, and now I'm curious about the story, so I might quest for those issues on my own.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I thought it would they're good. I'm just going to text Nick and let him know that I am finished and he can pop on. I don't know if he's going to come in here or if he'll pop on from his office or not. But yeah, I did have another are you going to come in here?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's how it usually goes, right?
Oh, sure, of course.
What do you mean, oh, sure, of course.
So anyway, I am going to pass the torch of knowledge and wisdom over to, oh, please don't do that. I'm going to pass it to my co-host Nick, and he is going to talk about a comic that he has read. So without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Nick.
Thank
Here
you
you
again.
go.
That was a great segment.
Well, thank you, Hercules. I appreciate it. Okay, it's all yours.
Greetings, Nicholas. How are you?
Hey, it's I don't think I've actually been here since Michelle's moved her computer around. Every about 6 months, she has a new location to put everything in to get the maximum amount of crafting space, cat storage, and computer workspace.
Yeah, that's about right. Yep, yep.
You, your place is way better lit than mine, that's for sure.
Oh, well, thank you. Are you getting enough air? Because I know it's kind of warm. Do you want it up one?
It's fine.
Okay, there you go.
All right. Hi, Hercules. We just hung out last Thursday.
Yes, we did. I'm glad to see you again so soon.
Good to see you too. It's been a hot minute. I probably will not be as in depth as Michelle was on her comics, but I will be talking about issue 1 of Brutal Dark.
Brutal dark. That sounds ominous.
It does. Brutal Dark, well, specifically, The Peril of the Brutal Dark, an Ezra Kane mystery. Um, I picked this up solely because of that cover. That cover is awesome. Um, Not knowing anything about this comic. Apparently, I guess there's comics before this. I'm guessing, I think Ezra Kane, who's the hero in this, has other detective comics, and this is just one of his adventures. Um, that's what it feels like. So yeah, this is a self-contained story. I do have issue 2. I have not read it yet though. But that one isn't as cool looking because it doesn't have a Grecian helmet on the cover. So so overview of what happens in this. So I don't really have a plot synopsis per se, but the comic starts in 1913 on the island of Lemnos. There's a group of archaeologists. They're trying to find. I'm sorry,
What island?
Lemnos,
How do you spell it?
Leminos.
Yeah, I think that's a misspelling of
Oh,
the.
that's a misspelling on my part. Lemnos, Lemnos.
I'm a Lemnian Greek, so yeah.
There you go. I spelt it wrong on my notes.
So they did it on my island of origin.
They're hanging in your old hood, dude. Hey, cat, what are you doing? Anyway, so 1913, group of archaeologists, man, I can't talk today. They're there. They're looking for the tomb of Hephaestus, which they find. They use a torch to open up this gear door, and they're surrounded by statues, but they're actually automatons, and they come to life, and they're about to attack the archaeologists, but then they all kind of crumble because they're old. But in the center of the tomb is the anvil of Hephaestus, and it's giving off heat and everything. And they're like, it's magic, so let's box this up and take it out. So fast forward 30 years, we're now from the perspective of Ezra Kane. He is a hard-boiled detective. He's currently in the middle of a case where he's trying to find a briefcase. Or case. This briefcase has been taken by some criminals. He's been hired to get it back. He does, but in the process, there's shootouts. He's almost ran over by a car. And in the end, he gets it back and he charges his client a lot of money. And his client's like, I'm not paying, basically Ghostbusters, like, we're not paying this bill. Well, we're going to unleash all the ghosts in your hotel. Okay, we'll pay. It's basically that. But anyway, case closed. He heads home, after a hard day's work of being a detective. But he gets a call from a museum. They have a case for him. So he takes off to the museum, but on his way, he runs into another police officer. His name is Mac. So Ezra Kane used to be a police officer, it sounds like, maybe. Now he's a detective. But this police officer wants to hire him because his neighbor is mysteriously disappeared 2 days ago. So only his wife is there. Her husband has mysteriously vanished, and they're immigrants and they don't have much money. So it's a case of, dude, hook me up and I will return the favor somehow. And he says, okay. So he gets to the museum, where he meets the curator of acquisitions and stuff, whose name is James Sweet. And it turns out the reason that the museum called Ezra is because when Ezra was younger, he was actually a student of anthropology at this museum. But then World War I broke out, and he had to abandon his studies, and he became a pilot during World War I. And so his old professor who works at this museum is like, you need to hire my protege, basically. So basically what has happened was a year or so ago, the Greek government, they were concerned about the Nazis and the Italians coming in to steal all their artifacts. And so they sent them over stateside. And in particular, the Germans and the Italians, they really wanted this anvil of Hephaestus. So they sent him over, and then, of course, the Nazis and Italian fascists, take over everything. So the artifacts are out just in time. And so they've been in the museum's collection. They're about to display them. But 2 days ago, the Night Watchman and the anvil disappear. So the acquisition guy is basically like a detective. Since you're a good detective and your background is Greek mythology, I need to hire you to find out what happened here. And of course, keep it hush hush because this is a government artifact that's gone missing, and so he has to do that. So Ezra returns to his office, and there's someone waiting for him there, and it's the wife of the husband that disappeared 2 days ago that the police officer brought up. Well, it turns out, anyone see coming, is her husband was the night watchman, and she says that he's been taken by dun 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 the brutal dark. End issue 1. So overall, so the first issue, it's a bit of Indiana Jones. You have some archaeologists going into a tomb and doing some tomb raiding. But then you have the classic, Nazis, instead of after the Ark of the Covenant and the Holy Grail, they're now after the a Grecian, myth, the Anvil of Hephaestus, and so they want that. So you got this kind of pulp adventure Indiana Jones element going on, and that's cool. Um, the story, it starts off cliche, but that's okay. When I read my pulp noir, I'm okay with that. The story is, detective, find this artifact for us. And that's how many Call of Cthulhu RPG games start that way, or some other occult detective stories. And this one's a little different. Instead of it being like an occult detective, it has Grecian mythology in it instead. And so I think that's a nice little turn, because occult detective stuff is a dime a dozen, especially in speculative fiction and horror studies. But Grecian mythology and pulp detective work, not so much. So I'm here for that.
This is a sword and trench coat type of story.
Kind of. Oh, well, there's a joke. The guy has a trench coat. He's got his fedora because this is classic 1940s hard-boiled stuff. But he loses his hat like Indiana Jones does. But a police officer finds it and brings it back to him. So they play with that a little bit. The art, despite that cool cover, the art is kind of a mixed bag. There's a different artist. His name is Francesco Francavilla, and his forte is doing pulp art. He has like this very distinguished dark orange style. It looks a lot like this, but better. And this looks cool, but there are sequences in this comic where it's unreadable. It looks like it was an AI done. I don't know if you can see this, but look at this panel over here. There's a sign. You can't even read the sign. I think it says auto ready work. I think they're trying to say automotive work, but that doesn't make sense. And I don't know if it's AI or just being lazy or something, but there's that peppered through it, and that brings me down. I like the style overall. It has this. I get it. They keep it a kind of a very dark orange and sometimes purpley style. There's no greens, there's no bright, there's no yellows. They keep it on the dark side of the spectrum, but there's this some of it that's just if they had Francesco Francavella doing it, it'd be a lot better. Um, there is an unnecessary coincidence in the story. So, Erzer Kane's friend, who's the policeman, comes up to him and says, "Hey, I need to hire you to find this missing dude," who turns out to be the night watchman. But he's going to find out who that is anyway because he's been hired now by the museum. And of course, the museum is going to be like, "Here's the details on our night watchman. Okay, I will go check him out." So it's like an unnecessary extra plot point that accomplishes the same thing. You didn't need to have this. His detective work would have gotten him to the same place anyway. So it's kind of I'm not like a connoisseur of detective fiction. I know, the Agatha Christie's out there and stuff could really look at something and say, "Ooh, this is really good because of X, Y, and Z." I can't do that, but I can say this seems ridiculously redundant or an unnecessary coincidence. Um, Not much peplum elements yet. Really, it's just the first couple pages when they're around the anvil and the automatons. Seeing the automatons, they look like Grecian soldiers. They have the hat, and then they break down. And my thought of that was, man, Hephaestus's work has gone downhill or something, because I remember his clockwork owl from Clash of Titans, and how that owl carried the entire movie. Literally, it went through hell and back and never broke down. So, or maybe it's because this is hundreds of years later, and maybe they just weren't built to last. But I was thinking of the owl, Bubo from Clash of the Titans in a weird sort of way. Um, but yeah, so that's issue one. I haven't read issue two yet. We'll see where it goes. Uh, is the story intriguing? Absolutely. Is there a little bit of letdown? Mostly in the art department, and in just an an unnecessary extra coincidence filler. Other than that, I'm pretty sure I know where the story's going to go. People are going to find the anvil. They're going to get magic powers. The detective's got to stop them. Um, and I'm okay with that. I mean, it's formulaic, but I like that sort of stuff. I think of movies like Lord of Illusions, which is a great occult noir movie. Although I haven't read the books it's based off of. That's Clive Barker stuff. So it's one of those. I know where it's going to go, but I want to see the journey and the detective work to get there. But so far, I'm going to put it in recommendation. It's not the most peplumy thing, and that's fine. Once I found out after reading it and finding out, oh, it's a 1940s hard-boiled detective story that instead has, a Grecian artifact. Okay, switch gears. I'm on board with this. So here we go. That is issue one of The Peril of the Brutal Dark.
Thank you. And I could fill in some of the mythology.
Do
Uh,
it, do it, do it, do it.
when Hephaestus was flung from Olympus, he landed near Lemnos. There was a mermaid kingdom there, and I guess Poseidon's queen Amphitrite had a palace. So he was raised there, and there he learned metal crafting. Um, and Lemnos had an active volcano, I believe, at the time. That's where his smithy was, and he had the forge of Festus there. He had working for him three Cyclopses, the elder Cyclopses that were around during the Age of Titans, not the lesser Cyclopses like Polyphemus. And he also had women automatons. So he had lots of women automatons who were golden. So he didn't really have guy automatons, according to the stories.
So I'll show you those panels. We could see them both from this. So here's the right hand side, his tomb slash work area. But then there's one of the, soldier automatons swinging its axe at a hapless archaeologist before it breaks down. So that's, a little kind of glimpse of what they're looking at peplum wise.
Yeah, the organization of Lemnians is still called Hephaestus,
Hmm.
and there were archaeologically a population center called Hephaestion, and also some the hot baths, the thermal springs, like a Thermopylae, that were dedicated to Hephaestus as well.
It's the other kind of panels of showing the automatons in action, and basically Indiana Jones style. We got to get that anvil out of here and
Very
do
cool.
our thing with it. I'm pretty sure there'll probably be more flashbacks to that type of stuff. So, uh, there we go. Well, since the main character is not only just a detective but a student at that stuff, I'm expecting they'll bring in more of that component as well. So, once I read issue two, I can point out the Hercules, and you can fact check it and say they got it wrong or they're spot on.
Well, I'm honored that they mentioned Lemnos and Lemnos' strange mythology, so that's a good thing.
Sorry, I a cat right here, as you know.
Cecily?
Yeah.
Cecily hasn't shown herself today. Usually she shows herself her tail anyway. There, Cecily. Hi, Cecily.
Look at that beautiful face.
Cecily's been getting credits on well,
Well,
thank
unfortunately, I
you,
don't
Nick.
have any more for you, sir. I
That's
didn't get a
okay.
chance to read issue two, but
I'm very enamored of stories that take the mythic past and continue it into the present, whether they be superhero tales or non-superhero tales. It just shows the mythology is still alive in our imaginations and in our hearts, and that gladdens my heart.
yeah. And not, I mean, even, it's just a story. Within the story, it still shows that old mythology has, again, within the story, bearing on the world, that, it continues to at least shape the world and inspire or mold, or, whatever you want to say, that the reaching arm of history still moves the chess pieces of our reality around, I guess.
Yeah, I told Michelle I'm exploring some uh, the cosmic rays of neo-theosophy, and I recently came across Green Lantern, where they ripped off theosophy to a phenomenal degree, with the different rings and the different colors of the rays and what the different rays do. It's not exactly, they modified it to fit their story, but I was amazed with how much of this really obscure occult stuff was in the comic book.
Hmm. I've never read Green Lantern or saw the movie, but I know enough of it. Is it what Hal Jordan is his name, or one of the Green Lanterns? Is that you can make wishes with it or something?
Yeah, I never was interested in it until I saw that they had these rings and they had different color rings, and the different rings had different energies, and different energies allowed you to do different things. And it's like, that sounds like the cosmic rays. And then I studied the Infinity Stones, and they do a similar thing except differently. So it's amazing to me how these ancient stories uh, survive through time, and then they wind up in our popular culture where they continue to mutate through our collective imaginations and then become part of the hidden tales again.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Nick. Anything new and exciting before we sign out?
No, but next month on our agenda is we're gonna watch Deathstalker and talk to you about it. So excited for that. I've got a good feeling about the new Deathstalker film. Um, the director of it, Steve K. I'm not gonna try to say his last name. He did a movie about a decade ago called The Void, which was a Lovecraftian film about these folks trapped inside of a hospital, and there's occultists around them, and a lot of uh monsters in the vein of like John Carpenter's The Thing. It is a fantastic horror film. We covered it on our HP Lovecast podcast a couple of years back. It is a great Lovecraftian horror film. So we held it in high regard. So now we're going to be watching one of his other movies now, Deathstalker. So we'll see how that turns out. So I've got a good feeling about it.
I got our schedules confused and I watched it again today.
Hmm.
I'll watch it again in a few weeks when we finally address it.
So just a slight preview. Thumbs up or thumbs down?
Yours?
Yours.
Oh, of Deathstalker?
Yeah, the new one.
Um, it contained elements from Deathstalker 1 and 2, and
Okay.
references to a lot of other sword and sorcery tales. Like today, I noticed already that it had the many-bladed sword, like in Sword and the Sorcerer.
Uh-huh, uh-huh.
Gave it 4 blades instead of three. And today I noticed that the hero that wielded that sword originally was called Talon, which is what the barbarian who wielded sword in Sword and the Sorcerer was called. So it was tons of references. Even He-Man and the Master of the Universe had parts there that you could recognize. The instead of Deadites, there were Dreadites, and it was supposedly
A lot of homages and lifting.
Yes, a lot. Games and cartoons as well as sword and sorcery. It didn't have nudity in it, which again, normally that wouldn't matter to me. But those old movies had lots of nudity for no reason, for the most part.
Yeah.
So I really feel that if you're doing a homage to the era, they should have included that. They didn't have to put a lot of it, but just to have it there, because that's what those movies did. But I enjoyed it. My wife enjoyed it. We watched it together, and today I watched it by myself.
Okay. No, that's a good sign then. I look forward to watching it, and we'll be talking about it next month with you.
Okay, be well, my friend, and I look forward to our next conversation.
All right. Well, Easter's coming up. You have a great Easter, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.
And you as well. Take care, my friend.
All right. Cheers.
Cheers.